to new.
Welcome, everybody, to the Unready Room. I'm Dan Gunther. With me, of course, as always, Brandi Jackola. How's it going?
Thumbs up. I've got the giggles now, and it's your fault.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, okay. Well, we were talking about something that's not this episode before we started.
Mm,
That's why we have the giggles. But I have to say, this episode has some giggles in it too. So, and some really heavy stuff.
yes.
Really interesting episode. I'm really excited to talk about this. So that's what we're doing. We are talking about season 2, episode 3 of Strange New Worlds, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And first of all, I just love me a good Shakespeare title in Star Trek. So, that makes me so happy. But welcome everybody who's joining us live at this different time. Thank you for seeking us out and finding us. And to everyone who's watching later, we really appreciate you as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Brandi, how are you doing?
Um, this just feels weird.
Ricky, nice. Yes, tomorrow in Toronto. Sorry.
Mwah, chef's kiss. You get the chef's kiss for the chat. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Mostly. It's been a strange weekend, and it's going to be a strange week ahead because we have Independence Day on a Tuesday, and so it's going to make things weird. And yeah, it's fine. I'm fine. Dave's fine. The cat's fine. Everybody around here is doing all right. How about you, Dan?
Not too bad. It's been weird already because of course, Canada Day was on July 1st,
Mm-hmm.
Saturday. And so also, I think this episode might have been a little bit of a Canada Day gift to us. I feel like, I don't know. But also on July 1st, on Canada Day, my podcast co-host and someone who I'm sure many of you know, Barry DeFord, got married. So that was really fun to be a part of that day and join him for that. That was really, really cool. And he and his wife both work in education, so it's kind of a moot point. But if they ever work outside of education, they've basically guaranteed that they will always get their anniversary off. So that's
Mm.
kind of awesome. Like that's a brilliant move, and they get fireworks on their anniversary. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool, I guess.
It is. I'm actually not that big of a fan of fireworks
Mm,
anymore, due to the excessive amount set off
yes,
by Ogden City on a semi-regular basis for holidays that do not need fireworks. And yeah, I just the cat doesn't like them. Does not like
hmm
them. He retreats to the basement, and even when he comes back up from the basement, he's still hunkered down to the ground
mm,
and just like this. No, it's
that's
not
not
not a
fun.
great
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But at least he's not outside.
yeah.
So
There's
there's
that. Well, yeah. So this episode, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, or and Toronto, if you prefer.
that.
Um, uh, F- okay, I'm going to be completely honest and we'll go through the episode. Probably for like the first 3 quarters, I'm enjoying it and I'm along for the ride and I'm loving the Canada stuff, of course, because, they go back in time. They always go to the US. And so to have them go to not the US,
Hmm.
except for a brief moment in the episode, and to my country, that was pretty cool. So, that was kind of neat. Um, but this episode gets me in the last quarter. Like
Hmm.
I'm just like, okay, I'm 100% on board. Um, so it's an interesting episode for me. It ended up being one of my favorites of the series so far, but halfway through I really was not thinking it was heading that way, which is weird.
Right. And to be fair, the whole Vermont stuff, it was still probably Canada.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we need to have a talk about lax border guards, fast traveling, And how much money can you make playing chess?
A hell of a lot, apparently.
Apparently a lot. I know, I mean, I haven't been I haven't gone to Toronto myself, but I know what hotel prices are in Toronto, and that seemed like a really nice hotel, so
It was a really nice hotel. I mean, they had robes for you
yeah.
and everything. That was a nice hotel.
Mhm. Oh man. All right. Well, let's get into it. We start out with La'an and we get a little bit of her life as chief of security on the Enterprise, and she's very isolated. She's very lonely for a number of reasons. I think as she talks about later in the episode, because of what her name represents and who she um, is connected to, but also, of course, her personal story, her personal tragedies, and things that she's gone through. She feels very isolated from the crew. And on top of that, her job kind of makes her the police officer, the person who has to confront people when other people are unwilling to, right? Like, you're not going to go knock on the science officer's door and tell them to keep it down when you can call security and get them to do it for you, and she has to be the bad guy. um, so I thought that was really interesting stuff that I hadn't really thought of, but I thought that was kind of a neat peek into her life aboard the Enterprise.
Agree. The whole thing, I mean, basically, the only time we really get to see much of Spock is in that scene, which is fine. Any Spock is Spock for me. And there was somebody on Twitter, Patrick knows who I'm talking about, um, that posted a screenshot of that and said, "Why is the way he said this so damn hot?" I'm like, I don't know, but it's true.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, the other thing I liked was, okay, first of all, we get to see a Denobulan. That was awesome.
Yes.
We've seen Denobulans since Enterprise, but only animated. Only animated
Lower
is still
Decks, yep.
cool. We saw them in Lower
Lower
Decks
Decks and
and
Prodigy, yeah.
Prodigy. Yep. But this is the first live action Denobulan we've seen. That's fun. A Denobulan cadet on the Enterprise. It's kind of cool. And Chief J arguing that the transporter doesn't steal from you. It does reflavor gum, though, we found out, but it will not steal from you.
Yeah, if anything, it puts things back. Bleh.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was fun. I want to see more of Chief J. I think they're really cool. But yeah.
agree. They need more scenes like Chief Kyle had. So,
Hmm.
let's have more scenes in the transporter room with, Chief J, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. We also learned that La'an spars with Dr. Mbenga, and as her sparring partner, he suggests that she should have a word with her doctor. That was an amusing little scene. I like that.
And she doesn't want to be medicated. Okay, then, that's fine, but La'an, deal with your stuff.
Hmm.
It's one or the other. Well, actually, it could be both. It just because you're on medication doesn't mean you don't have to deal with your stuff. Deal with your stuff. Feel your feelings. She gets it. She gets it by the
Yeah.
end. She does.
Well, luckily, there's some temporal shenanigans that will come into play that will help her confront those feelings very directly and stuff in the course of this episode, as often happens in Star Trek. So that's cool.
Hmm.
And yeah, we see that in the form of this flash in the corridor. Oh no, let's talk about Pelia first, of course.
Yes.
Her collection of stuff that's all labeled the archaeology department. And the painting that is a fake, so tell the Louvre to stop calling.
There's a part of me that wonders how many paintings in museums are actually reproductions, that they're fakes, because it's too risky to put the real thing up on the wall.
I
I
was
bet that happens way more often than we think.
I always kind of wonder that, like, um, there's the Mr. Bean movie of all things, where they completely destroy the painting of Whistler's mother,
Mm.
and they come in the next day and like it's back up on the wall, and the guy's like, "How'd you do that?" Mr. Bean's like, "It's a print from the gift shop." And he's like, "Oh God, I got away with it."
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. But of course, we that painting is stolen though. It's not a fake.
Mhm.
Yeah, we find that out, I think, pretty
Yeah.
yeah.
But the
Um,
statute of limitations ran out on that a long time ago.
is there a statute of limitations on plundering artwork?
Apparently, just ask the Catholic Church.
Mm. Mhm. Um, so yeah, anyway, we get into this adventure with the Flash and this uh gray suited fellow in the corridor having been shot. Has this device and the computer interface that comes up. Did you recognize that interface?
I did. I did. Wasn't it something we saw on Voyager?
It is indeed something we saw in Voyager, the 26th century, the USS Relativity. They had that kind of computer interface. So I don't know if that dates him precisely, but somewhere in there. That's kind of cool. I like that little bit of visual continuity there.
It was nice. It was nice. That wasn't that oh gosh. I can see the terrible 90s outfits in my mind, but I can't remember the name of the two-part.
Oh yeah. So this showed up in the episode Relativity, but yeah, the first time we met the people from
Yeah.
that time, Futures End parts 1 and 2. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Future's End.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Relativity, yeah. Uh, it was very familiar, and at first I thought, "That was a Voyager episode, wasn't it?" Then
Did I
people
say
were
26th? I meant 29th. Sorry.
yeah.
Think I'm seeing in the comments. I meant
You're
29th.
you're thinking of the 26th century with
Enterprise J and stuff.
J,
Yeah.
yeah, and
My bad.
and the Xindi having joined the Federation. I mean, it's all wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff. You're fine.
They're both multiples of 3. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly,
the 6 and the
exactly.
9, I mean, not the 26. Never mind.
Yeah. Sorry, we're gonna stop doing math over here.
It's not a good idea. Um,
Hmm. Not with my
fav
U.S. education, that's for sure.
Not with my, 20 years ago math education. Anyway, 20 plus years. Oh, I'm not gonna count that. That's more counting. I'm not gonna do that. By the way, just total tangent, favorite part of the Future's End two-parter is Captain Braxton yelling at the cops, calling them quasi-Cardassian totalitarians.
Agree, agree. One of the best lines in all of Voyager, I think.
Absolutely. Oh man. So yeah, back to this episode. We've got this guy dying and he hands on the thing, says there's been an attack in the past. You have to get to the bridge. And then he dies and disappears, and this flash of light encompasses everything. And so she
It's
goes to the bridge.
kinda like a ripple effect.
Hmm. Definitely reminded me of like the temporal weapon in Year of Hell or something like that, like a wave passing through,
Mhm.
changing the timeline as it goes, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting.
Hmm. So she gets to the bridge, which she thinks that's what this person has instructed her to do, to meet with the captain. And of course, we see Paul Wesley, Captain James T. Kirk, of the, well, we find out the United Earth Fleet ship Enterprise. Interesting. So, Paul Wesley as Kirk. What are your thoughts? Because I know the internet is divided and there's people, I don't know. What do you think?
Season 1 wasn't completely sure I wanted another Kirk.
Hmm.
This episode, I'm like, "For the love of God, give me all the Kirk you've got." So, he's okay, full disclosure, never liked William Shatner as Kirk, have never
Hmm.
liked the original series Kirk. It's never worked for me. I just don't like William Shatner in general. So, and that was even me as a kid. I was just like, "No, don't let Kirk talk. Where is Spock? Where is Spock? Give me the Spock." That's me at 3 years old. And, so, yeah, I was never a fan of that. I do really enjoy Chris Pine's take on Kirk, and, so Paul Wesley is now like, "Here's Chris Pine," and Paul Wesley is like, "Right up in there now. He's
Mhm.
won me over."
Well, the kind of cool thing is too, like, we've seen 2 different versions of Kirk who aren't, like, our Kirk, and then
Yes.
in this episode, we do finally get the prime timeline Kirk for about 30 seconds or so, like.
And in that 30 seconds, with
Mhm.
one line, he had me, and that was, "What did Sam do?"
I did like that.
And I'm like, "Okay, you're Kirk. I got you. I got you. I get it."
Mhm. I liked that. I thought that was great.
Yes.
Um, there was a question here I wanted to highlight. Shoot. Wellington. Okay, here we go. I like this question. Did the agent pick La'an or was that random? I think he picked her. Like he appeared at that time and place because he knew she was there. Because the agent at the end says you completed the mission in a way only you could, or something like that.
Mhm.
I think that was a very deliberate choice. I
Agreed.
I think there's different interpretations if you want to interpret it differently, but yeah, I think that was deliberate.
Yeah, I never thought it wasn't.
Mhm.
It didn't occur to me that it could have been random. I just thought that she was chosen, that they knew exactly who they needed from that ship, and that's who they went and got with
Yeah.
as quickly as possible before they died.
No.
Sorry, dude.
I know there's like a million things that we'll never see, and I'm not a television writer, so I probably shouldn't be in charge of making decisions like this. But would you not watch an entire series of La'an Temporal Agent?
I would watch an entire series of La'an doing anything,
Oh,
but
that's true too.
especially being a temporal agent.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, there. Oh, yeah. So we learn a little bit about this reality. It seems the Vulcans and the humans are at war with the Romulans. Not together, though, separately. They're not allied in any way, shape, or form. And things aren't going well for the Vulcans and for the humans. And it's not a bright future. And we learn little bits of more of that as we go through the episode with Earth being what did he say first? It was a battleground, then occupied territory, and then a ruin. um
Mhm.
and things aren't good for Earth. So yeah, this is what has been wrought by whatever attack happened in the past that they have to fix now. And La'an is going to kind of take Kirk along as they're struggling over this piece of equipment. The button gets hit, and they're both back in time in New York City, right? It's New York City. I'm pretty wait, no, it's actually Toronto.
That was a great joke.
That was really good. This looks like New York City. Lon's like, what?
Why? Because there's a bridge? What's wrong with you?
I loved that because so many times, they film in Vancouver or Toronto or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, it's some other city." I love that it was actually Toronto, and for like half a second in that wide shot, they had things that were very obviously in the name, things that I know of as being in Toronto. And for half a second, I thought they were really just going to go with it and say that it was New York because there'll only be a handful of people that would recognize those names, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's Toronto. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah. I knew immediately that it was Toronto as well because
Yeah.
I've seen the actual New York in films and television enough times to know what it looks like, and it's just, the fact that, Lon knew and Kirk didn't just it was just funny. It was funny to me, and
Mhm.
I really honestly just thought, "Okay, Dan is loving this right now," because it's actual Canada representing actual Canada.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I will say there's still the tendency of all outside media to think that Toronto is all that there is in Canada sometimes. I don't think they're necessarily guilty of that in this. It's just where it happened to be set. But
Mhm.
yeah, we see a lot of Toronto in Canada, is what I'm saying. But we've never seen it in Star Trek, which I'm still like over the moon about. So
Yes, well, I've seen a lot of New York
yes.
and Seattle and
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles, and so, like, anytime something's actually set in Utah, it's just like, "What? You know we exist?" So, yeah, I understand the feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's that's I feel like that's a thing shared by all Westerners in North America, or all Midwesterners maybe in because I guess there's a lot of LA stuff too, but for us it's always like Toronto, Toronto, some Montreal, but mostly Toronto, sometimes Vancouver,
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes Vancouver,
sometimes.
sometimes.
Oh man. But yeah, so they're back in Toronto. They go to a Roots store to steal clothes. I'm loving this. The first time you see a close up on the counter of a woman paying and it's a Canadian $20 bill, I'm just like, that's so cool. That's our money.
Yes, I was very pleased that they did that. They got it all right because, you know, they basically Star Trek is based in Toronto for good or ill, for good, let's
Mm.
be honest. And,
Everything that's an alien planet is a rock quarry, but other than that, yeah, it's cool.
that's at least it's not just a dirt circle with the same 6 rocks around it, though, because, they carried that forward into next gen.
Yeah.
Remember the first time that they met the Ferengi? Anyway, um,
And if it's on
yeah.
if it's on location, it's at Vasquez Rocks. So
Yep. Absolutely. That's Vasquez Rocks has been so many things to so many people and
mhm.
continues to be so. But yeah.
No,
I don't know where I was going with that, but there we are.
fair enough. Yeah, they have to steal some clothes. I liked the little visual gag of them coming out in pretty much the same outfits, and then just kind of like a little bit of a stare off until Kirk's like, "All right," and goes and changes.
Yeah,
Very stylish.
she was checking him out
Oh
while
yeah,
he was changing. Yeah.
yeah. There was definitely a bit of that.
Mhm.
Yep. The little Yep. Foreshadows some stuff to come in the episode for sure. But
Yes.
yeah, so they have to figure out what is different between their two respective histories. But before they do that, they have to get some currency. And as we mentioned earlier, in a nice little bit of continuity, I like this that Kirk hustles a bunch of people at chess because we know he's a chess genius. He beats Spock on the regular in the original series, which I loved.
So weird.
And but this is basically the idiot's version of chess, this two-dimensional version. So yeah, he seems to make quite a bit of money. um I'm trying to think of like how many days they spend in Toronto, how much they have to eat, the like what was it, 3 buses and 4 taxis to Vermont and back, and bribing the border guard. um at least a few $1,000s at this point.
Mhm. Mhm. Definitely. Unless this was far enough in the future that inflation had gone down, but I doubt it seriously.
I doubt that. Also, I did see there's some discussion happening in the comments as to exactly what year this takes place in. So, if we take the Romulan agent's words at face value, she said this was, she doesn't outright say that 1992 was when she arrived, but she does
Mhm.
say all of this was supposed to happen in 1992, and I've been stuck here for 30 years. So if that's not a rounding, it would be 2022 or
Mhm.
thereabouts. So,
Yep, that's fair.
obviously, yeah, obviously not our 2022 because that bridge don't exist. I'll tell you
Mm-mm.
right now. But, yeah, about around now, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think at one
ish.
point they do say mid 21st century, but that would be a very rough approximation as well. So I would say anywhere from between 2022 to 2035 at the outside, if that, like 30 maybe, sometime in
Sure.
this decade, I'd say.
That works for me. It
Yeah.
doesn't, I didn't break my brain thinking about it. It's
Mhm.
just it's like, "Oh, it's the past. It's a relatively near past. It's fine." You know, near to what our current state is. So it's just like
Yeah.
it was one of those things that I just didn't matter too much to me, I guess.
Mhm. It's one of those things that, like, the old way of doing it is usually they pick up a newspaper and look at it, and I'm like, "Oh, we don't really have those anymore."
Yeah,
We
I'm really
do,
glad
but
they didn't do that.
yeah.
They honestly, I would have to go back and watch it again, but on like those big digital billboards and things, there might have been
Yeah,
something
like
that
the news
might
reports or something.
yeah, exactly. There might have been something giving a specific date that I missed. So
Mhm.
now I have a reason to watch it again.
I think Memory Alpha places it in 2022, and I don't know if they get that from a direct on-screen thing or if they just did the math thing with the 1992 and 30 years, so but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is always just good advice. I just like the minutiae.
And thank you for the Mystery Science Theater 3000 reference. I love you.
Absolutely. So yeah, they're like I said, they're comparing histories and eating hot dogs with no condiments on them whatsoever. Like, oh, that's madness. But
At least mustard. At
at
least mustard.
least
And
that's
some relish. Let's put some relish on there.
yeah, that's how I prefer my hot dogs is just mustard. But you have to
Yeah.
have at least mustard. Um,
Yes. I used to not be a relish person, and then I grew up and I was a relish
mm,
person. So, but when I was a kid, it was mustard even then because ketchup was gross.
yeah. Um, yeah. So other than that, those hot dogs did look good. So I
They were
watched this.
very long.
They were. I watched this when I was hungry, so they looked like Costco hot dog size.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. I do like that he enjoyed that hot dog so much that he wasn't even finished. He was like, "I'm going back and get another one."
I seriously, when I first saw that episode, I thought in that moment he was gonna say, "I'm gonna go back to get something to put on this hot dog because the
No.
way he was talking was so dry." But no, no, just gonna go get another one.
And as
Um,
soon as they yelled cut, he was spitting all of it out.
yeah, I think so. Oh, sorry to see you go. Glad you could join us for a little bit. But,
Bye.
thanks for your rating, 9 out of 10 on tiers. I like that. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, yeah, so Kirk, this is where we learn a little bit more about Kirk's timeline where, there's, "Oh, you don't have sunsets on your Earth." And it's like, "Well, from the videos I've seen, remember he's never been to Earth. It's mostly clouds of ash that'll last for thousands of years." Yay. Um, and I kind of like how they call back to that. That's how she convinces Kirk. Basically, is like, it's like, "Who's to say which timeline is better?" She's like, "My Earth still has sunsets." He's like, "Fair."
Yes. Yes. And that was funny because, you know how certain fans are, I use that word loosely, when, the second trailer came out before Strange New Worlds actually premiered season 2, and people going, "He's from Iowa, why is he singing for us? He's from space."
Yes.
Well, guess what? He's still from Iowa,
I
the
okay,
USS.
I love that because, like, I'm reading too much into this, but I really hope there's somebody in the marketing department at Paramount who's just cheeky enough to put that in to have, like,
Mhm,
set people off and be like, "Ha, it's a joke,"
mhm,
"We're gonna put that line in because it's gonna make the Trekkies mad." Or at least make the Trekkies like twig on it and question it because I did too. Because I was like, oh, that's interesting that he says it that way because like he's directly asked that in Star Trek 4. He says, "No, I'm from Iowa. I only work in outer space," because it's the exact, So I was like, that's interesting. And in my mind, I was like, there's got to be a reason for that. And I was even thinking, like, if this was the Prime Kirk, I thought it would be clever if he said, "I'm from space," and she's like, "I thought you said you were from Iowa," and he's like, "Ah, that's right. I guess I only work in space." Or something
mhm,
like that would have been kind of cute. But the fact that this is an alternate Kirk who was born in space
mhm.
on the Iowa, ha 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 ha,
Ha ha ha.
um, that's clever. I like that, and I love I hope this is the case that yeah, somebody in marketing was like, "I'm gonna put that in there to screw with people, and it's gonna make sense when you watch the episode."
Yeah, which just goes to show you don't make snap judgments based on very little information.
Exactly. Like,
So,
spark
because
conversation and question it and be interested, but don't say, "Oh, it's crap because X, Y, and Z." They don't know their
well,
Star Trek. No, they obviously really know
yeah,
their Star Trek.
they
They're
do.
able to joke about it and play with it and challenge your expectations. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, when I saw that trailer, I'm like, well, they've obviously time traveled, so you know, this could possibly be an alternate Kirk anyway.
Yeah.
That's right. So, but yeah, it just like I wasn't bothered by that. I thought that will be explained, and it
Mhm.
was.
Yeah. It was funny because I watched the, Screen Crush not Screen Crush, sorry, the, Trek Culture video where they talk about the episode, and they kind of thought they didn't like that he said he was born on the Iowa. He should have said he was born on the Kelvin. That would have been a nice little tie back. But I'm like, nah, that just would have confused a bunch of people.
Mhm.
I like the Iowa gag. I thought that was good.
I agree. I think that was a better way to go.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, we're in the hotel room now. That apparently, I gotta tell you, stuff in Canada ain't cheap. I don't know how much you they must have gone back to that park and played a few more hours because good lord. Um, but we get that interesting overnight scene with Kirk sleeping on the couch, like the gallant gentleman he is, of course, and La'an in the bed and the kind of quiet, no dialogue, where she comes out and kind of looks at him and goes back to bed and Kirk's awake and is like, what? That was interesting. What's your take on that scene?
My take on that scene is the same as every other scene like it. You are grown-ups and you can sleep in the same damned bed. Grow up. That's my take. But no, she was starting to get sweet on him and she was starting to feel feelings and she obviously did not want to feel feelings.
Mhm.
So, she could have felt some really nice feelings, I think, but she decided not to and went back
Mhm.
to her own room.
Yeah. I like that striving for a connection of some
Mhm.
sort, right? Like
Yes.
that's and very subtly and beautifully played, I think, by Christina Chong. I think um I've always liked her prior to
Mhm.
this, but like this episode, I just like I was blown away by her performance, the subtleties of it, and then we'll get to the end of the episode where I think she just like stole my heart. Like she is incredible.
She is incredible, she's amazing, and, at first, I it wasn't that I never liked her. At first, I just thought, "Oh, it's another closed off woman. Well, hopefully we'll get to see her open up," and she does do that throughout season 1, and season 1, episode 9 is such a big turning point for her character,
Mhm.
and I thought, "Oh, great, we're gonna see more of this in season 2," and we are getting that, and I'm loving it because Christina is obviously extremely talented and, very good at fleshing out this character, and I'm glad that they are giving her the opportunity to do that.
Mhm. It's interesting that, of all the characters so far this season as well, we've had 3 episodes and, like, some pretty major things for her character in all 3. Like, episode 2 wasn't her focus episode, but there was a big chunk of it where she's, worried about, was it her personal log that got Una in trouble, and she's trying to help her out, and she has the scene with Uhura, and episode 1, of course, with, uncovering the plot and stuff, and then this being a really on centric episode. It's interesting that she's given such a bigger focus in these all 3 episodes so far. I kind of love it.
I do too. I do too.
Mhm.
I want more.
Yeah, me too. And Patrick, this was a really good point too. All the other things from the trailer, when people are talking about, like, well, how come Kirk doesn't know Khan later on? You met his descendant. No, he didn't. So, or he did, but very briefly over a view screen, and probably has already forgotten it.
Mm.
Um, yeah, interesting. Okay. So yeah, they're in the hotel room. They're trying to figure out what's different, and very conveniently, I guess, this hotel room that must be very expensive has this expansive view of this bridge that promptly explodes. And
Yeah. That was an amazing visual effect, the way that they did
mhm,
that. It was very jarring because basically you see it in the reflection,
yeah,
and it's just, it's messed up and really well done.
mhm. And La'an makes that connection, get to the bridge. Oh.
Mhm.
Hmm. Which they do. They go and see what's going on, and that's where they find the piece of debris that has the scoring on it that screams photonic weapons. Thanks to an intrepid photographer who's nearby, whose image they zoom in on, and are able to find that out. Hmm.
I was suspicious of her from the first moment.
Yeah.
I just thought, "No, this one's not crazy. This one's not one of those loonies who's trying to find proof of aliens. This is somebody to
Hmm.
watch." I wasn't expecting her to be a Romulan, but
No,
I
definitely
was
not.
I was expecting her to turn on them.
Interesting. Um, I like how they set her up as a character we've seen a million times before, right? They
Mhm.
set her up as an Edith Keeler, as a Rain Robinson, as a the one from season 2 of Picard, whose name is slipping my mind at the moment, but someone from that time who's going to help them out. Um, Rewatching it is really interesting because when they walk up to her to look at her camera, and it's really subtle and I love it. Um, when she says, "Let me see your camera," and she kind of like, "What?" And then Kirk says, "She meant, let me see your camera, please." And she does this to Kirk. She goes, "Okay." She maybe didn't recognize him as Kirk in that moment, given what she says later. Like, "I'm embarrassed how long it took me to recognize you." But there's a subtle bit there where she's like, "I know this face. What is
Mhm.
this?" I like that. I thought that was, I don't know how intentional that was, but it was really good. Like, if you rewatch that scene, you're like, "Oh, there's something there." I love it.
Yeah, and that is the beauty of a good performance.
Mhm.
Subtlety, subtlety. I love subtlety. You don't have to have everything big and in your face, and that's why I love micro expressions and subtle movements and, just a change of where you're looking. Just I love all of those things because it communicates so much with so little.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, and there's so much of that in this episode. There's little bits of foreshadowing and stuff, really well done. Some things are really broad and and kind of obvious, but some things so subtle and so well done. I love it. Um, Even the fact that the device they get to use to like find the tritium from the reactor is a watch, and it didn't occur to me till after, I mean, till later in the episode when you see the watch on her shelf, like what that symbolizes, like this adventure she went on, but also like time. And I was just like, that's cool. I like that.
Mm.
Maybe
It
not
is.
so subtle, but I liked it.
And, I think it's subtle enough because I didn't pick up on it the first time that I watched it, but I did on the second time, so,
Hmm.
but that's the thing, this is why I watch episodes multiple times, not just for this show or for Boldly Go, but because I miss things. There's so
Hmm.
much in every single episode that you can't see it all on the first run. And sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 times before I feel like I really have a handle on it.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, okay, so a lot of stuff here with the alternate Kirk. I love that they're playing with this and having a bit of fun. And again, like, just really flies in the face of people who say the people writing current Star Trek don't know Star Trek and all that stuff. Like, there is stuff in here for the diehard fan that only somebody who's watched the original series multiple times or whatever would pick up on and catch. Like, they have to steal this car to chase the van, and Kirk goes and Vulcan neck pinches the guy. There's 3 different times in the original series where they make a joke where Spock pinches someone, and Kirk's like, you're gonna have to teach me that sometime. And Spock's like, I've tried, Captain. I've tried to teach
Mhm.
you that. This Kirk learned it from a Vulcan in a Denobulan prison, along with how to make plomeek soup in the toilet. We'll leave that one alone. Um, but I just love that. Like, it's subtle. It's great. If you know the original series, you're laughing.
Mhm.
Um, if you haven't watched the original series, it's a convenient way for him to knock the guy out. Cool. It advances the plot. I love that.
Yep. Yep. I appreciated that too because when he did that, I'm like, "Wait, wait, wait. Okay." But then I remembered, "Okay, this is alternate universe Kirk. Where did he learn this? Please tell me yes, you're going to tell me why he knows how to do that." Just well done. Well done.
Yeah.
But, what I really loved about that too was he was talking about being in that Denobulan prison, and the very cheerful way he said, "And I learned how to make meek soup in the toilet."
And it's like, mhm.
He was just so he was just so proud of that.
Totally. Yeah. Plomeek soup's tough, and in a toilet, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to begin with, but wow. Yeah, that's that's an achievement, Jim. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and Mossy has to take off, I see as well. Sorry, I know we're doing it at a weird time. Appreciate you stopping by. And yeah, it's very late for our European friends and over in the in Ireland there for sure. So 4 out of 5 borrowed paintings. Appreciate that. Also, highlight to Mossy's username, Save Prodigy, hashtag Save Star Trek Prodigy. Just throwing
Mhm.
that out there.
Yep.
um, so yeah, other things in this scene, there's a bunch here. The driving away in the car, very reminiscent of his first attempt to drive a car in A Piece of the Action, where puts it in reverse. And yeah,
Yeah.
that was very on brand for Kirk as well. And then in the car, the other little bit of subtle stuff, again, for the longtime Star Trek fan that I love, is they're talking about Kirk's brother. And people mentioned this in season 1 of Strange New Worlds, where we meet him and everybody calls him Sam Kirk, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's what Jim called him in the original series. But in the original series first season episode, What Are Little Girls Made Of, the android version of Kirk is talking with Kirk, and he says, only you call him Sam. Everyone calls him George. And in this scene in the car, he says, oh, Sam is his middle name. Everyone calls him George. And Lon's like, absolutely nobody calls him George. I love that. like, highlighting that as just a thing Kirk thinks, but isn't true.
Yeah, which is very Kirk,
Yeah,
honestly.
I just sure. Maybe they messed it up a little bit in the first season, and this is them correcting it, but, even if not, like, I love it. I think that's great. I think it's
Agree.
hilarious.
Agree, because he doesn't look like a George, let's be honest.
No,
That was his
absolutely
dad's
nobody calls
name,
him George. Yeah,
So, of course, he's gonna go by Sam.
yeah. And yeah, his middle name, Tiberius. I liked, Lon. What's Sam's middle name? Sam Augustus Aurelius, whatever the last one was.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, that was really good. I like
Mhm.
that. So yeah, they're chasing the van. They end up doing some high speed stuff, almost running a few people over. Hopefully that doesn't impact history too much. But yeah, they get pulled over by a cop who, by the way, Tim Hortons. We now see that in Star Trek. He's drinking a Tim Hortons cup. That was wonderful. I just the little tiny bit of my heart that still has some patriotism in it is like, yay.
You can love your country while not loving the people running it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also have been studying a lot of history lately, so I don't know that I love my country all that
Mm,
much either.
well,
But
yeah,
yeah.
unless you've had as much slavery as we have and still continue to have slavery even though they don't call it that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we got other stuff too. I'm not gonna get into it, but um,
We all got stuff. Every country has got stuff,
yeah,
except
but
for Finland, really.
hmm. But yeah, so they get pulled over, and the first time I watched this episode, I really kind of rolled my eyes at the scene where our undercover Romulan agent gets them out of being arrested by saying all this stuff. I'm like, oh, that seemed a little too easy. The second time I paid more attention to what she was saying, and like an op-ed in the Atlantic that got funding cut to police unions. I'm like, okay, that might start to sway some people. Okay, I kind of get it. Um, but I assure you, our cops don't usually roll over that easily, as far as I know.
It
But
depends on, if they were in the US, absolutely not, they just beat them to death is what they would do
yeah,
here.
well, they're white, so well,
Yeah.
Kirk's white, so
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, he's with a non-white person, so they definitely would have been beaten to death by the cops.
ugh, yeah,
While they were running away, they would have been, yeah.
no,
Because that's how
but
we roll here.
yay. Yeah, as soon as she mentioned police union funding, though, or something, I was like, "Oh, okay." I can see the very self-interested, okay, yeah, like, "Oh, okay, let them go." Um, but yeah, that's where we kind of really get to know this person who introduces herself as Sarah, who, has these conspiracy theories and the photographs, one of which is of a Romulan bird of prey, which I thought that was pretty good. I liked, and it was subtle, but I liked that La'an didn't recognize it, but Kirk did, because
Mhm.
the Romulans haven't been seen in the Prime universe for almost a century at this point. But Kirk and their non-Federation are at war with the Romulans, so I like that.
Yeah. I liked that too, and I recognized it immediately as well.
Mhm,
Even if it seemed to me like they had, camouflaged the underside of it so it didn't look too much like a bird,
mhm,
but that was fine too, because that would make sense. But, yeah, I, that's when I really started getting super suspicious of her.
yeah.
I'm like, "She's being
Yeah,
way too helpful. I don't like this."
she's being very helpful, and also, like, that photograph of the Romulan ship was planted to see
Mhm.
their reaction. because
Mhm.
she was testing them, right, to see like what do they actually know. And they're like, oh yeah, kooky, crazy pictures. Here's a picture of a real thing. Oh, they recognize that. So yeah, I definitely think that was a big clue there for sure. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, how did you get a picture of that? Oh, an astronomer trying to take a picture of the International Space Station. Oh, sure. Okay. Right. Um, but the mention of a cold fusion reactor in the city was interesting. And like that would be another thing that someone would say, and you'd be like, oh, that's crazy. But in Kirk's history, the explosion of a cold fusion reactor destroyed Toronto. Um, this is bad of me to say, but I'm sure a lot of people in my neck of the woods go, "Yay!" No, um, that's bad. I not me, but anyway, um,
Hey, some nice people live in Toronto. Just
absolutely, they shoot Star Trek in Toronto. Are you kidding me?
yeah. Gosh, guys. Not you, Dan.
There was also at one point, speaking of shooting Star Trek in Toronto, there was a an advertisement on a bus stop in this in the background, and I had to back it up to take another look at it because it looked like somebody like sitting in a chair with like a yellow shirt like this, and I was like, is that an ad for Strange New Worlds? And it wasn't. It was some delivery service or something, but like it caught my eye enough that I had to back it up.
Oh, if it had been, that would have been so meta.
It's been so great. I
It
still
would
feel like it was put there to like make you think for a second. It was.
it would have messed people up something fierce, and I would have laughed so hard.
Yeah, totally. Um um I would say Vancouver is the LA of Canada and Toronto is the New York of Canada. That would be my analogy, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So what yeah, we've got Kirk saying, well, there is one here. We need to figure out a way to find it. Too bad we don't know an engineer. And Lon's like, aha, I know one who's very close in Vermont. Um,
That's not
not
close.
really close.
It is if you have a transporter.
It is if you have a transport. It's on the same side of the continent, I guess.
Mhm. Ish.
Um, ish. Similar latitudes, but
Mhm.
yeah, so they make their way to Vermont, and this is the part where honestly I still kind of have to suspend my disbelief. They make an offhand comment of bribing a border guard because as someone who's traveled to the US from Canada across land, I can tell you those US border guards, yeah, they're very lax and very lenient about anything. No, they're not. No. Yeah, I'm really curious how that worked. Years ago, you could cross the border without a passport. Now you need a passport and all the documents and all that stuff. So, um, and then the like fast travel. They said they take like 3 buses and 4 cabs or something. Um, I think the Trek culture video compared it to like the traveling across Westeros in the final season of Game of Thrones, kind of similar feel, where they're like, "Oh, characters need to be here now. Now they need to be here." Sure.
Yeah. Or, any RPG video game is
Mhm.
is like that. Is like when you unlock fast travel, it's like you have to walk there first, but once you've been there, you can fast travel to and from. And that's the dream. That's the dream because it's like, okay, I got to go to this one place. And 20 minutes later, you are still walking to that place in the video game because you have to fight things along the way unless you're really, really good at stealth. And if you're really, really good at stealth, sometimes that means you have to take an even longer way. And then it just feels like forever until you actually get there. And then fast travel is unlocked and you're like, thank God. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the border crossing is what got me the most. Like, I'll
Yeah.
just be honest, that was it's like
That
because
was
they
suspect to me too,
yeah,
because
they had to do it 2 ways as well. So
yeah, no,
that
no.
seemed yeah.
Why, if they spent all of that time and money, why didn't they just charter a plane?
Yeah,
But what do I
yeah.
know?
I don't
Maybe they didn't know how to do that.
know. But, yeah, so they get to Vermont, they search a number of universities, finally figure out that the archaeology department is just the name of her store where she's selling all of these completely legitimately acquired items, and stuff. So, yeah, they find Pelia, and, she's not an engineer at all. She last math class she took was back when Pythagoras made the crap up. I like
Which
that.
is so great because the assumption that because, uh, Lon knows her in the future that she would be the same in the past.
Mhm.
That's a funny assumption, and I enjoyed it.
I like that. It did work out though because, like I said, they get the watch, and she figures out that the tritium would make the hands glow, the byproduct of a cold fusion reactor. So, um, yeah, that works out. They go to Vermont, get a watch, and go back to Toronto, and yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the one part where the story falls apart a bit for me. But it's a bit of a speed bump, but honestly, it by the end I still love this episode. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm sure they didn't want to have to write in dialogue or have a scene where they, pay money to forge passports and driver's licenses, so,
No.
they just kinda skip over that, but yeah, that had me scratching my head too because I remember the halcyon days of being able to go on a cruise to Mexico with just my driver's
Mm,
license, and that you can't do that anymore, no, no.
no.
So, yeah, I remember those days in the before times. So
No.
many years. Oh, wow, that was a long time ago.
So they get back to Toronto, and honestly, this is also kind of the thing that, like, they're just gonna walk around Toronto till the hands on the watch glow.
Mhm.
It's a
Toronto's kinda
pretty
big.
big city.
Mhm.
Luckily it works out. They find this place that turns out to be, I got the full name, the Noonien Singh, shoot, Noonien Singh Institute for Cultural Advancement. Um, so it turns out Canada introduced Con to the world.
Great job.
Um, sorry, eh?
I think that's unfair. I really think that that's unfair that they made that in Canada. Just
I
yeah,
kind of
not right.
like it almost. Like, we're so polite, as so the stereotype goes. It's like, yeah, we unleashed Khan on the world. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting choice, but yeah, they get to there, and they realize the name, and she realizes that, like, her DNA imprint will allow them access. They unlock the door, and that's when our Romulan agent reveals herself, and shows up. And, you know, as far as villains go, she's one of the few that manages to kill James T. Kirk. That's pretty high up there, really.
Mhm.
So,
Well, he had that Kirk confidence going for him.
try
This
me.
yeah, this invulnerability thing, and then to find out, "Oh, no. No, he is mortal like the
Yeah.
rest of us."
I see resounding choruses of "Blame Canada" going on in the comments, and Tristan "Blame Canada." Yeah, yeah, there we go. Whew.
You guys are the best.
I love it. Um, yep, yep, we're sorry. As usual. Yeah, so, she, now has access to this place through La'an, and, she ends up killing this version of Kirk, and that was genuinely heartbreaking, that scene with La'an and Kirk outside the door there. And I've seen some people online saying it's an interesting kind of flip of the city on the edge of forever dilemma. And I kind of like that. I
Mm.
never really thought of that while I was watching it, but that's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, me too. Except, this was an alternate universe, Kirk, and so there's no harm, no foul for us.
Yeah, no,
But
we're fine. Yeah.
yeah, we're fine. I do want to shout out all those other people that she killed inside that facility,
Yeah.
who were probably just, grunts doing their job. They kissed their wives or husbands goodbye in the morning and had no idea that they were going to die that day. So
Yeah.
I'm the weirdo who always thinks of those things, and that, the ruthlessness was very Romulan.
Hmm. Yeah, that definitely struck me, especially the second time watching it, was like, wow, there's a body count piling up there. Um, and yeah, that kind of sinking feeling too when they go in there and you see the, reactor that way, genetics department that way. You're like, oh god.
Mhm.
And this is where my brain starts going, but wait a minute.
And I was just going, "Can't wait to see how they explain this."
Yeah. And like the first time I'm watching this, and I watched this about 3 weeks ago, was when I first watched this episode. And I was thinking, I'm like, at this point in the episode, not having finished it yet, I'm like, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people on the internet.
Oh, there still are,
Oh, there
but
still are. Trust me. Yeah,
mhm,
no, I know. That
mhm,
prediction held true regardless of what happened later in the episode. But I thought that was interesting. I'm like, how are they going to do this? And then, of course, you see the sign on the door, Khan, written like crayon kid letters, and the pictures, and you're like, okay, but wait a minute. How, again, like you, how are they going to do this? And I kind of loved how they did it with
mhm,
the just the kind of ranting of the Romulan agent saying like, this was all supposed to happen 1992 and I've been here for 30 years and blah blah blah. And when I watched this with Nikki, she was like, wait, back that up. She's like, what is going on? And then like I kind of had to pause and be like, well, blah blah blah. And remember Wrath of Khan, they say 1996. And oh, okay, interesting. So I like that. It's there to like, there's been so many temporal incursions that it's shifted and moved and stretched and bent. I mean, it's a good enough explanation. I
mm.
think it works. It's not, eh, it's fine.
Well, the idea that we mere mortals, mere humans, Homo sapiens, could possibly understand the vastness of possibilities in the universe is laughable. It's
Hmm.
absolutely laughable. And so for me, things like this don't really bother me because people
Hmm.
want to put things in these boxes and label them and file them away and categorize them. You can't do that with the universe. You can't do that about stuff you don't know, that you've never experienced, that you haven't studied. So I just let it go and just go, you know what? That works for me.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, it works. That's fine. They want, what it is, and I can't fault them for this. You don't let minutia like that stand in the way of telling a good story.
Yes.
And between this episode and what they were kind of setting up in season 2 of Picard and some of the other stuff mentioned in some other Star Trek stuff, it's clear that they want to do stories about the eugenics wars and Khan and that history. And in order to do that, they want to kind of move that up in the timeline and present it here. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm
Mhm.
curious to if this is the story that came out of, if this is all that comes out of them doing that, that's fine. If they want to tell more stories that involve other things, that's really cool too. Um, but yeah, I'm okay with it. I think it's interesting, and it's the malleability of time is kind of cool in and of itself too. So,
Yeah, well, time is not a constant.
mhm.
And it's a wibbly wobbly ball of
Stuff.
stuff. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey ball of stuff. So there we go. But um, I just remind myself in cases like this that we know, as far as we can tell, as far as the smartest people on this planet can tell, we know about 4% of what's in the universe.
Mhm.
4%. Try and think of how small that amount of knowledge is. We think it's vast. No, we have no
Yeah.
frame of reference for the stuff that we don't know because we don't know what we don't know.
Mhm. And, you know, also, this is a weird thing for a diehard Trekkie to say who has, you know, been neck deep in the minutia of Star Trek since I can remember. I would still echo back to the point that was made earlier, thanks to uh, somebody in the comments earlier. It's just a TV show. I should just relax.
Mhm.
Mystery Science Theater. Yeah, totally.
Don't make me start singing the theme song because you know I know all the words.
Yeah. Don't let that stuff stand in the way of telling a good story. And this
Yes.
was a great story. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're fighting outside of Khan's room, and um La'an eventually gets the upper hand after, you know, she reveals to Sarah who she is, right? And all of this. And we get to meet young Khan. And as someone said here, they finally cast an Indian as Khan for the first time ever.
Hmm. I
That's
don't know
kind of
his
cool.
name, so I don't. Yeah.
I was looking it up earlier. I can't remember. Desmond Sivan
Mm.
is his name. And
And he
yeah,
was adorable.
he really was.
It's like, oh,
Um,
you're going to grow up to be such a horrible person, but right now you're just so cute. You're just full of potential.
yeah, that line, "You're right where you need to be," is so chilling though. Like,
Mhm.
it's the age old debate, right? Like, kill Hitler in the crib, or like, would the world turn out worse than it did, you know, etc., right? And in this case, in Khan's case, it turns out, yeah, the world would turn out worse. So um I see people bringing this up, and this really bugged me too. A lot of people commenting on it. She leaves the gun on Khan's nightstand and then walks out.
Well, my guess is with all the people that chick
There
shot on her way in, there probably weren't any bullets left.
probably not, and there's people running to the room right now. Like, she can
Mhm.
hear them coming before she leaves. That said, it still seemed so obvious that, like, was that on purpose, and why? Not on purpose on La'an's part necessarily, but in the story's part. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. Or was it just an
Well,
oversight?
I don't know, but also I feel like if she was trying to escape this facility, she would not want to get caught with a gun.
Yeah, but she just is hitting that button and flashing away. Like, that's how
Oh, that's
she's
true. That's true.
so
Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. But maybe I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe she just wanted to mess with the people who are going to run into that room and they're going to see that gun and they're like, "How did this get here?" And then they're going to fingerprint it and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't match anything in the database." And they're just going to be like, "I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know."
I don't know. It was a confusing choice to me, whether that was La'an's choice in the script or if it was just like the choice of the writer. Like, what's the purpose? I don't know. It seemed so focused on, I guess, that
Yeah.
like she very deliberately put it down and then very deliberately walked away without picking it up again.
It may be symbolic for her in that she could have fixed her future even though it would have erased herself. But at the same time, she understands that this Khan is not Khan yet. This is a
Mhm.
child, and she couldn't have done it even if she wanted to. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a very deliberate choice on her part to put the gun down. It's just where she put it down that's weird.
Mhm. Yeah. I don't know. And yeah, I'm not sure what to say more on that, but,
Yeah, just a big
yeah,
huh?
yeah. So she flashes back to the Enterprise and she goes to the bridge, and sure enough, it's her Enterprise. Pike is there, and he and Number One are confronting Pelia about the Louvre getting in contact with them for stolen items, which the statute of limitations has apparently run out. She checked. um,
Of course she did.
and yeah, Lon's consulted as to maybe Starfleet security would have something to say about it, and she says, "No, we'll just let this one go." I guess that's within her purview. um, yeah, and then from there, the visit from the Department of Temporal Investigations, 29th century branch or thereabouts, in Lon's quarters at the end. Um, which was another very interesting scene, and telling her she can't discuss it with anybody, including Captain Pike. And this whole scene from start to finish is where I just absolutely fall in love with Christina Chong's portrayal of La'an. I love all of this.
Mhm. It's a horrible thing to have that knowledge and not be able to just commiserate with someone.
Hmm.
It's probably gonna eat a hole in her for the rest of her days,
Yeah.
because that is awful knowledge to have to carry. And what can she do about it? Nothing. She can't confide in anyone. She is, once again, alone. She has
Hmm.
been alone so much. Even, when Una found her on that Gorn raft and rescued her, she was still alone, and she's been alone because she felt like she had to be. And she's finally in this place where she doesn't want to be alone, where she wants to make that connection, and now she has to be alone in this thing, and it was, so when she starts crying, I'm just like, "I feel you. I feel you
Hmm.
so hard."
Yeah. Yeah. The Yeah, when she tells the agent, like, I can't even tell anybody about all this, and that was brutal. And then, of course, contacting Kirk. And again, this is the first bit of Prime Kirk we've seen Paul Wesley play,
Mhm,
and I think he did really well. Like, there's a there's a there's an edge to him in a quality of mercy, um, that we don't see here. And there's also a quality of him in this alternate Kirk, coming from this kind of darker universe, that we don't see here. He's got this lightness about him that feels like it's not, he's not channeling William Shatner, which is fine.
mhm,
um but I could also see William Shatner playing, like young William Shatner playing this scene similarly, with a kind of lightness to it, like like that kind of way of Kirk has a little bit. He's kind of like,
yeah,
Lieutenant Kirk here. He's just like, just a lieutenant on a ship doing his thing.
mhm.
He's I don't know. It's subtle. I don't know what exactly it is, but this screams to me like, oh, this is Kirk. This is the Kirk we know.
Yes, so unburdened by the choices of life and death that he's going to have to make in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, there's other things I want to comment about Kirk, and I'm curious if he shows up more in season 2. I think he does, because there's scenes in trailers we've seen we haven't seen yet. Him beaming into a transporter at some point. We haven't seen that scene, but I like this portrayal of Kirk, even though the Kirks we've seen haven't been the real Kirk. The idea that he's more of an officer and a professional than the pop culture version of Kirk tends to be.
Mm,
Like, he's not the womanizing, um, rule breaking, Maverick, right? Like that's if you look at Kirk from the early days of TOS, that's not his character. He was an officer and a gentleman at the academy. He was a stack of books with legs, they called him. And so in this episode where he's, an uber smart at playing chess, and uh, he's much more intelligent than, again, pop culture tends to give him credit for. I like seeing that, and I'm looking forward, if they're bringing Kirk back more, for good or ill. I know there's arguments on both sides for that. um, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that exploration of who Kirk really is, rather than um, the Chris Pine Maverick version of Kirk that kind of is the caricature of what people's image of Kirk is.
Mm. Yeah. Like I said, I've already spoken my opinion about Paul Wesley as Kirk now, so
Mhm.
I'm I'm very happy to see him again if he shows up. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, after that brief communication with Kirk, La'an's breakdown there, that is the moment where I was just like,
Mhm.
this actor is brilliant. And like I don't tend to cry at episodes, and especially this episode I was not expecting to at all. But this one broke me at the end. Like I was just like, I got weepy, and I was not expecting to at all. It
Mhm.
was so good.
Yeah. Um, I felt it coming from the point where the, temporal agent showed up and told her that she couldn't tell anybody about this. I'm like, "Okay, where's the tissue?"
Yeah.
'Cause, this is not gonna end, on a happy note for Lon. I did love her calling Kirk, though. I really loved that, and saying that, she was asking about Sam, he's like, "Oh, what's Sam done?" "Oh,
Yeah.
no, what's Sam done now?" That was just I love that. I love that. That's
Mhm.
such a brother thing. Such
Yeah.
a brother thing. It's stuff I would do with my sisters, you know?
Mm.
Somebody calling to ask me, "Hey, can I ask you some few questions about your sister Brooke?" What's she done now?"
Yeah. I also love, like, just the way this scene was constructed, where, like, she just kind of on a whim calls him, like, just,
Mhm.
like, has to see his face and see that he's alive, and has
Yeah.
given no thought whatsoever to, like, what she's gonna do or say when he
Oh,
answers.
no.
And she's like,
Absolutely. Um, stuttering over the words that she's, trying to say, and she, does not sound like the security chief at all.
Also, the first canon confirmation that James T. Kirk was born in Riverside, Iowa, which has been traditionally calls itself the future birthplace of James T. Kirk. Kirk was living there in the 2009 movie, but of course was not born there in that timeline. But yeah, the first time that gets like canon, that's part of canon now. And I think that's
Yes.
cool.
I agree. I like it.
Yeah. All right. We have talked the heck out of this episode, I think more so than any episode recently. So
Oh, just wait till we get to 5.
yes. Yeah. But putting that aside, to you and to the fine folks in the comments, I would love to know your final thoughts and rating for tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
I really loved this episode. I'm not usually big on time travel episodes as a general rule, especially when they go back to the current time, because they tend not to age well. But I was on board for it because I've really grown to love La'an even more this season, and I wanted to I love having a whole La'an-centric episode. I think that it's great, loving Paul Wesley, all of those things. There niggles aside, I think it was a stellar episode, and, I would give it, 1 big plate of poutine with gravy because I've never had that, and it really sounds delicious.
It's if it's done well, it's really good. But I'll tell everybody what I told Brandi before we started. It has to have cheese curds in it. That's poutine. Some places will just grate cheese onto fries and put gravy on. That's not poutine. It needs to have
Mm-mm.
cheese curds. And I don't even like cheese, but I like poutine. I'm weird. I contain multitudes. It's fine.
It's all good. Like what you like. It's fine.
Hmm. Absolutely. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I was kind of by halfway through the episode, I was a little unconvinced. And then when they took the like quick road trip to the States and back, I was like, I don't know. But by the end, like the story is worth it. I really enjoyed this episode. I feel like some things could have taken another pass with the pen for another draft, but that's okay. The performances, Paul Wesley, I think honestly, I'm taking sides in this debate. He knocks it out of the park in this episode. I kind of fell in love with alternate Kirk along with La'an at the same time
Mhm.
falling in love with La'an throughout the episode, and especially that final scene with Christina Chong just blows my mind. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna give it one big cold fusion reactor that like why don't they release this technology? We could probably use it at this point. So yeah.
Yeah, probably. No, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely is it. Fusion is the way, people. Fusion is the way.
Yeah, totally. So mostly pretty high ratings I'm seeing here, which is good. Totally not stolen pieces.
Totally not stolen. Hi, Aaron. How are
No.
you?
Oh, and Aaron, you had a great comment earlier. I wanted to go back to and I forgot. I'm going to see if I can find it here. Oh yeah. The look that Uhura gives, the alternate Uhura when Lon walks on the bridge thing. And
Mhm.
then in the Prime universe in the restored timeline when Pike says, "You're not in uniform," and she's like, "What?" I she Celia Rose Gooding, terrific side eye.
Mhm. Master side-eyer. That's not a word. I know.
Yeah. And Xerxes, yes, poutine associated with Canada. It is a Quebecois dish. It is from Quebec. That is the origin of poutine. So we have Quebec to thank for poutine, and we love it. So just checking more ratings here, making sure I don't miss anybody. If I missed anybody, I apologize. But yeah, that's about it. So, Brandi, Boldly Go is boldly
Yeah.
going still. That's awesome.
It is boldly going. The episode for this week's episode of Strange New Worlds is not going to get recorded until Wednesday
Hmm.
because I'm having a special guest. I mean, all of my guests are special, never mind. But this one was a really extra special thing that I never could have landed by myself. So I have Ashley Thomas to thank for that. The nerdy blogger. In case you haven't heard episodes 1 and 2 of Boldly Go, well, it's not episodes 1 and 2, but it's our never mind. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, Boldly Go, Star Trek Strange New Worlds podcast. Go find it on all your podcatchers and whatnot. And you can find me on Twitter at Brandywine12 and on Mastodon at Brandywine at ravenation.club.
Awesome. And yeah, you can find me on the Positively Trek podcast, which the I was working really hard to get it back on schedule where we had like a regular episode 1 week and then a book club episode the next week. And last week was supposed to be a book club episode with Brandi where we talk about the Strange New Worlds comics. And it was going to come out the same week as the Ad Astra episode, and it was going to line up really nicely. But then they went and canceled Prodigy, so kind of had to make an episode about that. So, Brandi, I haven't talked to you about this at all yet, but what are you doing tomorrow night? And do you want to record an episode?
Um, I don't have any other plans. Tomorrow night's good for me.
Cool. Sorry to drop that on you.
No,
Um,
it's fine. I'm raring to go.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, positivelytrek.com is the website. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. And we would love it if you joined the Positively Trek discussion group on Facebook. It is honestly just the most positive place to discuss Star Trek. There haven't been many trolls, and any that have popped up, we've dealt with swiftly. So it's a fun, safe place, generally speaking, to talk about Trek. And we would love it if you joined us. At Kertrats on Twitter, which seems to be completely imploding.
Yeah, that's
If
fun.
anybody has an invite code to Blue Sky, by the way, that'd be great. And I'm also at Kertrats at mstdn.ca on Mastodon. And with that, I'm going to signal boost the hashtag Save Star Trek Prodigy. Thank you, Patrick. And
Mhm.
wish everybody a great night, a happy Canada Day, a happy Independence Day, and all the other just wonderful things that come along with July. So live long and prosper, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you next time.